Okay, it's 10 o'clock. We will call the special Sawyer County Board of Supervisors meeting to order, please. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Dale Schleter,
Here.
Jesse Betcher,
Here.
Tweed Schuman,
Here.
Stacy Hessel, here, Jason Weaver,
Here.
Mark Helwig,
Here.
Tom Duffy, Hughes, Marshall Savitsky,
Here.
Brian Bissonette, Michael Maestri,
Here.
Chris Rusk,
Here.
John Bigheimer,
Here.
Ron Kinsley,
Here.
Ron Buckholz,
Present.
Ed Peters.
Present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. May you indicate that we have a quorum? Please rise for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Certification of compliance with open meetings law, Madam Clerk.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and this meeting is required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Meeting agenda has been presented. Public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board during public comment? I don't have any slips turned in. I see a pretty good crowd here. If not, anyone online, Alex?
No.
Okay. Moving on then to our agenda item number 8. Consider additional courtroom construction project expenses. Safety and security items. Mr. Albrado, do you want to start us off, please?
All right, thank you for coming today. We had to have a special meeting because some of the things we are discussing, time is of the essence, where if we were to choose to go ahead with them, we need to make a commitment so that the supplies can be ordered and the vendors that are already in place can undertake that work. So specifically in the last month, there's been some items brought forward primarily by the court and sheriff's department related to safety and security, as well as staffing efficiencies that were not in the final plans. I don't know if these items were omitted during the design process or if they were overlooked, but at this point, they are not in the scope of work that is currently planned for or budgeted for. So that's why we're bringing them forward. I can get into specifics by pulling up the layout, but just a brief description. In the court area, there's been a request for additional cameras, microphones in the courtroom for monitoring proceedings, the relocation of hallway cameras, cameras or intercoms in the secure hallways or entryways so that access can be controlled, as well as the installation of bullet resistant film over the exterior windows in the judge's chamber. And jail items include adding door controls on the holding cells between the jail and the court side, as well as additional door controls and card readers for controlled access. Some of these items have been identified in the interest of safety, and others are being identified to create employee efficiencies. Examples of efficiencies that have been brought forward were by having the additional microphone and cameras in the court. The judicial assistants would be able to monitor court proceedings from their offices. They'd also be able to monitor secure doors and buzz individuals through. And the additional door controls in the jail would allow central control in the jail to control the cells remotely. We've asked the construction manager about these additional items, and they've looked at their subcontractors that are already in place for the pricing. Costs for these changes are identified as $45,903.67. This does not include the bullet resistant film, as they've been working with vendors to determine the product and the installation costs. I'm putting a number of $10,000 on it. That might be high just based on the information this morning from the vendor they've been talking to. Cost for that could be closer to the $6,500 to $8,500 range. But I think at this point, I've just used 10 as a safe number. Like I mentioned, these are all costs outside of the original scope of work that was bid and was contracted for. So we need to consider that we need to come up with the funds to do these. We cannot use the contingency fund. For one, it's not what the contingency fund is for. And based on where we're at with the contingency fund, it's unlikely that there'll be any contingency fund left in the project to accommodate these costs. So we're looking at a total estimate of $55,903.67 as a budget. And we're bringing this forward today for the board's decision. You could approve this full or in part and add it to the scope of work. Other options would be waiting to proceed until the end of the project and see if any contingency fund remains with the original fund. Not proceed is an option, or after the close of the project, revisit these items. So I mean, those are, I think, are all the options that are out there. If you want more detail on the items I've talked about, I could pull up the potential change item request from the contractor that gives a little more specifics and shows the locations of these items. But I'll only go there if you want me to get into more detail about them.
So Andy, the total cost of this courthouse change order, then you're estimating conservatively at $55,903.
Yes,
And you feel that the contingency fund that we set aside will be depleted by the time we get to the end of this project?
yes. As of today, the most recent, I think the last time I reported, we were closer to 150,000. But in January, there was a long list of items that were completed or executed by the construction manager. So the contingency fund balance as of today is 49,000 and some change. And we still have to complete the new construction, and then we will roll into the remodeling of the existing area. So it's, I would say, likely during the remainder of the project, we will use up the rest of the contingency fund, excluding these items.
Okay. Mr. Markert, when do you want to go then on how we would support this if we were to approve it?
Yeah, so I've laid out 4 different sources that we possibly could use. Andy mentioned one, which I'm not a fan of either, using contingency. We haven't even begun the remodel yet, and that definitely will run into things we're not expecting. So I would like to keep that money in there. We also have about 54,000 of uncommitted ARPA funds. The biggest commitment has been actually to the project. There is some money additional from that. I would like to keep that as well, because when we last talked about this, like Andy said, our contingency was around 150,000. Well, this morning we've lost 100,000 of that. So we're really down, and I'd like to keep between the two, there's $90,000 basically in contingency on the project that I feel we should keep. So that brings us really down to 2 options. One would be to take it out of general fund reserves. And then the final option, which I would recommend, is roll it into the final debt issue for the courthouse. Almost a year ago, the county passed a $2 million resolution. Then subsequently, the board also said, well, we'd like to take, I think it's 1.29 million out of the ARPA funds to go towards the courthouse. So you have authority to do 2 million. We're going to need to do 900,000 or whatever. I would recommend making this part of that. And that, as we've mentioned before, is going to come into a bigger discussion of our bond council recommended to save money on issue costs, taking our 23 CIP and rolling that into the same debt issue. And actually now he said, at this point, we might as well take 2024 CIP and roll it in the same debt issue, because again, it'll save money overall. Instead of having 3 different bond issues, we would have one. It'll save on a lot of closing costs, issue costs for that. So my recommendation would be to just roll it into the next debt issue. We'll have to do the debt issue before the project is done. That's why I'd like to keep the contingency in ARPA for anything that comes up after that final debt issue.
What do the taxpayers experience if we roll it into the next debt issue? Is that a minimal amount, or can you estimate what that is?
It's nothing additional than what's already been presented to the board previously, when Brian Della was here, probably last March, I would guess, at this point. He laid out that whole thing, including the CIP moving forward.
Okay, and before the board goes, I know Sheriff wanted to say a few words, sir.
Thank you. I'd just like to reiterate, and Andy did a good job of explaining the efficiency and safety security issues. But a couple of additional things I want to add when it comes to especially the door locks in the jail, the secure portion of the jail. Right now, in operation, we typically work out of central control and we're able to have inmates walk down the hall and safely secure them within the secure portion of the jail, rather than have jailers escort them in that part of the jail. Here's the big reasons why. Our staffing issues, we have 3 jailers on each shift, day shift included. When court's in operation, and especially on Tuesday is our big court hearing day, we have one of the 3 jailers in central control, one of them on the floor, and one in booking. We don't have the extra staff to accommodate a lot of those functions. What would probably happen is we'd have to have our court officer secure his weapon, go into the jail, bring that inmate to court, or secure cells in between. And it's a staffing issue, huge issue on efficiency. The average jail operates with 12 to 15 inmates per jailer. Last year with our jail population, we were 29 inmates per jailer. So we are lean on staffing, and I think this is a huge advantage. Implementing this a one-shot deal, we're going to be able to utilize the safety and security forever on that end of it in years to come. And I know the probability of someday staffing issue being a concern, the longer we can prolong that and it not being pivotal, I think that's the best direction to head. The other thing is with the camera security side of it. That's a huge issue on top of, we monitor it in our officers. Staff on the court side monitor it. It's all recorded. If there is a crime committed in the courthouse or in our courtroom, that is evidence because of surveillance. Having those cameras mounted in the right place is huge for safety, evidentiary issues if there ever is a crime committed, and other safety factors as well.
Thank you, Sheriff. Mr. Buckholz.
Yeah, after reading this and looking at all our guests here today, I believe. And what we're doing with this new courthouse, that we need to do this safety and security items. To be put in place for our employees, our judge, the whole 9 yards here. Well, if you need a motion, I'll make that motion.
Would you include in your motion, Mr. Buckholz, that we roll this into our next debt issue as the
Yes.
finance director has recommended?
Yes.
I have a motion by Mr. Buckholz,
That's sort of number 9.
second by Chris Rusk, Mr. Rusk. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, first.
Mr. Betcher.
Yeah, I was just looking through the Myron's change order requests, and under general conditions near the bottom, it says taxes are not included in this submission. So I just want to make sure we're not undervaluing your, I mean, is there going to be taxes on top of this? That we're not
Exits now. Thanks.
No, I believe that's standard language in there. We don't, as a county, we don't pay sales tax on items anyway.
Okay, thank you. There's no further.
Okay, Ms. Hessel.
So the point of doing this project was to point out the safety issues and make sure this was safe. So why is this just being addressed now? Not in the original. Maybe we've been working on this for the whole time I've been on the board. I'm just wondering why, as we get down to the March final date, that is just being addressed now.
Mr. Alvarado, can you answer that, please?
I don't have a good answer for that. I can say that the cameras and the card readers, these are additional items that were identified as the projects come together. There is already card readers and cameras in the facility. I think once staff had a chance to look at the building and walk through it, they saw some additional areas where they thought these were needed, specific to the bullet resistant film in the judge's chamber. That actually came up on a walkthrough with the county board. That question was asked. We followed up and found out that it was not included. But did not find any track record where that was excluded necessarily. But it went up to the district court administrator, the interim district court administrator provided some input that while the Supreme Court guidance on courtrooms and judges' chambers does not specify bullet resistance features, and the most recent courtroom construction projects, they have been included. And so the judge has made this request, and I would say has been very pointed about what his expectations are for his security. I can't tell you why it was not included from the start.
Thank you, Andy. You're gonna go, Mr. Kinsley.
You may or may not know, we have a courthouse committee that meets with Myron bi-weekly, and I'm the representative for that, okay? Last Wednesday, they brought forward, we probably should put these other extra things in. As I looked at that and I communicated with Andy and Tim, they asked me, what do you want to do? Do you want to bring it to Public Works? I said, no, I want it to come with the full county board. Because to answer your question is, as you walk through this building, you see more and more things. And Myron's been very good at pointing out things. You might want to look at this, or you might want to look at this. And they've been good about that. So that's where we ended up with this point. Why it wasn't approved before, I think it was an oversight. We can't find any proof for the clerk of courts, not the clerk of courts, but the district clerk jail, Channing, what was Channing?
District court administrator.
Thank you. We can't find any place where they have signed off on anything where they should have probably. Tim, you got anything you want to add?
No, and on the. And there on the holding cell lock electronic control, that's not a huge cost addition, but there was an email chain. That one was originally taken out. That was discussed. Are we going to control out of central control or not? And there is an email trail on that one where the decision was made that no, that was not necessary to do that. So that is an addition, but yeah, the other stuff, some of it is more time you spend in the building. So, and I do agree that it is, I do think it is worth putting in, whether we do it now, or we would have done it in the future. So it's just easy, to get it done now, I believe.
Okay, so we currently have a motion on the floor by Mr. Buckholz approving the courthouse change order in the amount of $55,903.67. And we're taking our finance director's recommendation to roll it into our next debt issue. And that was seconded by Mr. Rusk. Any further discussion? Mr. Schleter.
The original, does this change? And I was feeling the same way as Ms. Hessel described. This was supposed to have been discussed earlier, but does this change the contractor's signed order that he will be done by such and such a date, and that it will come in at the date, the price in the contract?
Yep. Good question.
And if it does change them, I want to know what is because of something we are changing, or something that was just, oh, well, you need to look at this and we can do this more. And so I'd like a little more information on.
And you are correct, Mr. Schleter. We hired this construction manager at risk, which would ensure on time and on budget. Go ahead, Mr. Kinsley.
The date was March 10th. It is pushed back because of equipment, bringing equipment in, which no one has control of.
Was it equipment that should have been ordered sooner?
I don't believe it could be ordered any sooner than we did. I think they've done an excellent job of trying to keep us abreast of what's going on. Yes.
And
Yeah, Miss Hudson.
I was just gonna say, could you remind me who's on the committee that meets?
It was to the Public Works and I'm the representative.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Exactly. Does our representative from Myron Construction want to say anything?
Not really, other than just from personal experience, this sort of thing does happen once the people that actually start walking the building that are gonna be the potential end user notice. Inefficiencies and things that aren't really seen on documents. And it's the end user that kind of leans toward this change, right? Trying to help the end user, basically. We do our best trying to find all those issues ahead of time, and sometimes we don't see everything either, right? Or understand how you plan to use the building. So,
And Mr. Markern, you mentioned that once we get into the actual remodel of the old building, there could be other things that come up, and that's why you're saving what money we have left for.
Correct.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Then are we using?
Yes. If not, Madam Clerk, can you set us up for a vote?
1 second. I have to get the difference.
Again, the motion is to approve the courthouse change order of $55,903.67 and roll it into our next debt issue as recommended by our finance director. When Madam Clerk is ready, we will vote.
Why aren't we just making it 56? That's the number. he gave us.
And let me get my vote now button.
That's the number he brought us.
Yeah.
And it's a simple majority, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Vote now. It's open.
It's open.
It is open. Mr. Maestri, how would you like to vote?
In favor.
Mark, yours didn't record.
No.
Hey. Closing the vote and it passed 12-1.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you all. Sheriff, you had one more thing to say? I'm
No.
sorry, I think you're good.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Thank you all for attending the meeting. We'll move on to the number 10, department head reports, and we'll start with Gary, Veteran Service Office report, sir.
Let them-
Oh, okay, yeah, hang on.
We wait, see if we can, get it done.
I just thought you had a separate. Of for the building project itself, but it's just public work.
You guys look like you're way back there.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, Gary, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good morning. So for the month of January, the office had 444 phone calls, 374 letters, emails and faxes, and 115 office visits. I submitted 13 disability and pension claims to date, and so far I've received retroactive payment of $19,491.88 upon the 1st of February. My training is up to date. For miscellaneous information, the adult long-term care veteran service administrative assistant arrived February 1st. She has been working with Health and Human Services, or the ADRC, in getting that side of the training done. When she's done with that, I want to get her started with the training that she needs to help assist them in the veteran service office. As far as grant applications, had 2 grants come up that I applied for. CVSO grant that usually happens once a year to support the service office and outreach is $9,350 that went in. And then we had a supplemental CVSO grant that came out last minute, no notice. And that was for $14,228. And again, both of them were submitted and awaiting decision. from the state on whether we're successful or not in that grant money.
And we have the full county board here, Gary, so can you tell everyone where your new office is located?
Okay, we're on 16096 US Highway 63. It used to be the heck was it? Trouble Boys, yeah, Oasis, it's the Oasis building.
Next to Frankie's.
You know where that's at?
Everybody, next to Frankie's.
Next to Frankie's.
Yeah.
Yep, and Keenan Construction. So yeah, that's where we're at now. It's opened up, as far as accessibility. It's a lot better than the old building was. So,
Good, thank you, Gary. Any questions, concerns for Gary? Yes, Mr. Betcher.
Hey, Gary, does the Veteran Service Office provide or assist in any way with transportation for the county veterans? If they have appointments at VA hospitals in like Superior or Minneapolis, do you guys assist in any way with that?
yep, we've had a transportation program since before I started. That we transport veterans. If the Sawyer County veteran needs to go down there, they can contact me. Yeah, and I asked like 48 hours in advance. But to make sure that I've got a driver and everything scheduled up.
Do you have a vehicle
I have-
dedicated and a
Yep.
driver as well for that?
Yep, I applied for a transportation grant. That wasn't in here. I submitted that I think December of 22 for this year. And that's kind of how it rotates. But yes, I have 2 vans, all-wheel drive now and spacious. That we run Monday through Friday, or we have the availability to run Monday through Friday. With few exception, I've got 2 drivers. They are part-time. They have other things going on, but they set that aside, but they do take vacations. So I've got a week coming up here in February, March, that I'm not gonna have anybody to haul anybody. So far, I haven't had a need, which is good, but normally I have coverage Monday through Thursday. No appointments for the veterans before 7:30 in the morning at Minneapolis. None after 1:30, so they can have a 7:30 appointment, they can have a 1:30 appointment, they just can't have a 1:35 appointment. Normally, the appointments run 1 hour. In some cases, 2 to 3 hours. And then I fluctuate normally starting time. So if I have somebody at 7:30 in the morning, has an appointment at 7:30 at Minneapolis, we start out of here at the maintenance building, custodial building at 4:30 in the morning. So, and then they take off. It takes about 3 hours to get down there and 3 hours to get back. We charge $25 for the round trip. And so far it's worked out pretty well. We haven't had any trouble with our deer or other people lately. So but it works out good. Now I've had Superior, really the only reason we would go to Superior was like audiology or optometry, if there was a need. But we've never done that, and it's kind of difficult to run. They can get the optometry, they can get the hearing at Minneapolis as well. I don't have the vans and I don't have the driver. So if I had one person that needed to go to Twin Ports and one to Minneapolis, it doesn't work out that way. Where I can
Okay,
get
so
full
the
service.
only place you go then is the. Minneapolis
Correct.
gate.
Correct.
All right, thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Betcher. Mr. Helwig.
Did you say $25 it costs
Mhm. Yes,
the veteran?
yes. The rest of it is subsidized through the transportation grant and the county taxes.
Mr. Slater.
Gary, a long time ago, I remember the vets that were transported down to Minneapolis. Upon leaving after their appointment was over, received a voucher. And then that they could use to pay the county for the trip. Is that still happening?
Yes, to a point. So the veterans, so this is where it gets convoluted and it's VA Well,
we'll continue just.
yeah,
Yes.
regulation. So if the veteran is 30% service connected or more, it doesn't matter what they're going down for, or what they're being seen for, they can apply for travel reimbursement. And I help them with that. They can do that right at the, well, now, they went computer based. Where they can just go onto their phone, go click, 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 and it's done. And there's a sheet that I fill out for every trip that the driver takes to Minneapolis and turns in, so they can see the address in which the veteran lives, that's already on file, to be able to get health care, to the address, to the pickup point for the van. I've got those addresses down, and the charge for the van. So yes, if you're 30% or more, you're gonna get reimbursed. Now, after under 30%, if you're going down to that appointment for a service connected condition, say like they have hearing loss at 10% and they're going to an audiology appointment, the VA will reimburse that trip. If they only have hearing loss and it's at 10%, and I'm just using it as an example, to show the 10%, and they go to a podiatry appointment, that is not reimbursed. So, and that's just how the VA is set up for the reimbursement.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Anything else for Gary?
Thank you for all you do, Gary.
Yeah, appreciate it. Good report, sir. All right, moving on then to letter B, IT Administration Committee Report. Mr. Colson, are you on?
I am, thank you.
Yep. Go ahead, sir.
So the latest project we've been working on is helping the sheriff's department beef up their online presence, a little bit of a facelift. So we started with their jail roster, added some booking photos in there. For better or worse, it's the most popular page on our site, and so they've been wanting that for a while, and that's on there now. And we're also working on coming up with a new site redesign for the sheriff's department, so we'll probably see that in April. I'm guessing at this point, late March or early April. We're still working on some minor tweaking for the ADRC and veterans buildings, so enhancing their printing environment, telephones, and camera network. They're working now, but we just gotta put some finishing touches on that. And other than that, we've been trying to work real closely with our vendors for the new courtroom, because we have to tightly integrate those systems such as door controls, cameras, duress, and so forth. And also the door controls for the rest of the courthouse will be integrated with that. So Alex and I have been spending some time lately with the vendors, and we'll be heavily engaged going forward with them. And that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Mike from the board? If not, thanks for all you do, Mr. Colson.
Thank you.
Appreciate the report. Okay, letter C, Human Resources Report. Rose, are you still here?
I am. Good morning.
Wonderful. Good morning.
I have my report. As you can see, we're making some headway on our open positions. Have some part-time and full-time EMS people that are starting. We've made a lot of headway on our female jailer area. Still have a few open positions. We have 2 new people starting on Monday. One is in maintenance, one is in EMS. So just keep trying, keep working at it.
So as we move forward with these female jailers, Sheriff, are we gonna bring some people that are out of county back in our jail?
As soon as we meet the minimum DOC requirements, a number of female jailers trained in, we will bring our females back. And we can bring them all back. Yes.
Mr. Kinsley?
That's what I was gonna ask. How many
sorry.
female inmates do we have housed out then presently?
It's been 15 to 20.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else for Rose and Human Resources?
Keep up your good work.
Thanks.
Yep.
Rose.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rose.
Have a good day, guys.
You too.
Yep. Okay, letter D. County Clerk Department Monthly Report. Madam Clerk.
Yes, this is new, so it's longer than it normally will be, but it outlines what we're working on with the elections. We do get lots of election questions from various committees. And also our over-the-counter type of activity. But we are in dire need of a chief inspector for this coming February 21st election in the town of Bass Lake. If anyone knows of anyone willing to take the 4-hour online training and perform that function, because they are short-staffed. Otherwise, we're ready for the February election. They've all got their equipment, absentee ballots are out. And they're coming back, so our April ballots are already submitted for programming, and they are gonna be lengthy. With 4 referendum questions and municipal contests and state contests, so expect a long ballot indeed. Any questions?
The new voting machines are working well.
They are working. We had our audit. I think we did our audit in November, and the state chose who was being audited, and at that time it was Ojibwa and the city of Hayward. And we found that our machines are working fine, and the state audit came back yesterday to report saying that there was no equipment failures as far as inaccuracies. And some had some printing problems and had to be reset. But most of the errors, if they were found, were human error.
And how do they find the write-in candidates?
What's that?
How do they find the write-in candidates?
Oh,
That's-
write-in candidates, yes, it depends on whether there's a individual running on the ballot, but in order to find who is getting votes, they have to unroll every single tape the machine goes through until the command central can put a fix in that will actually report at the end of the tape the write-in names, because they have to calculate and find the names in some of the cases. If there's nobody on the ballot, then they have to look at every write-in candidate, including Daffy Duck and Darth Vader. And if there is a contest with a registered write-in, they still have to look through and look for all occurrences of that registered writer's name.
So maybe Command Central will have that corrected by then.
That was supposed to be corrected in 23, and it's not happened yet.
Mr. Batcher.
I apologize if you already said it, but for Bass Lake, that election supervisor job inspector, what's their requirements or prerequisites for that job? Do they have to be?
County resident, any place in the county, and take the 4-hour online
So
training.
any resident of Sawyer County over 18 eligible to vote, so not.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Clerk, is there a primary election
Yes.
before this April
February
election?
21st is the primary election, and right now it's only it's only gonna be the Wisconsin Supreme Court contest.
Oh.
So it's a short ballot for February. Hopefully, things will go really smooth for February.
Okay,
Small turnout for a large expense.
Yeah, just gonna say that. Right, a large expense, each election costs $10,000-12,000 for. What do you call it?
okay, any other questions for our Madam Clerk? If not, I appreciate all of you coming. We're adjourned.